Hey, what is going on YouTube? Happy New Year. It's that kid Greg is back again. Now, just quickly, you might be wondering where the hell I have been for the past fucking, I don't know how many months, whatever. I took a hiatus around the time of finals, and so finals were over, the holidays came up, and I said, you know what, I'm going to take a break for a while. Nothing's really going on, blah, blah, blah. But Trump's inauguration happened, and we had some interesting things going on around the world. So I figured, hey, you know what, why not? Might as well jump back in for a video. That being said, the Women's March happened, and it was interesting to say the least because I'm not sure what the purpose of it was. Like, what was the purpose of the women's? No, seriously, like, what was the reason? Like, what the fuck? Hey, what the shit? Like, why? What the point? What was the point of the Women's March? I don't understand. It was just ladies going out and saying, hey, we don't like you because you're against our rights. Which rights? Which ones? I know, like, the main thing that was talked about was abortion rights and what's the other thing? The wage gap. But I've got a video coming up real soon discussing feminism and the wage gap and how it is not a thing that is necessarily something that we should be worrying about so much. And as for the whole abortion thing, to my understanding, Trump just wants to make it so that taxpayers don't have to pay for women's abortions. That will necessarily not even that. It's more like he doesn't want taxpayers paying for Planned Parenthood, which offers those services. And my whole thing is, like, what is exactly wrong with that? Like, the whole point of taxpayers putting money into something is that it's something that can be useful for everyone. But one, not everyone uses Planned Parenthood, and two, not everyone agrees with what Planned Parenthood does. Like, there's plenty of people in the country that think abortion is wrong and all that. And so, of course, they wouldn't want their taxpayer dollars to go into an organization that carries out abortion because they don't believe in that. Now, granted, like, in my personal opinion, I believe that women should have the right to make that decision. It does not affect anyone besides the women and the people in her life. So, like, the guy that got her pregnant, her family members, the baby in the stomach, obviously. But I also feel like it is the right of others to not be involved with that. So if someone says, you know, I don't want to be involved with anything related to abortion because that goes against my religious beliefs, I feel like they should have that right. I feel like that person should be able to separate themselves from that situation so as not to be in conflict with their own religious beliefs. And it's silly to me that the more radical parts of, like, the feminists and the left movement is trying to force this on people. Like, why would you want the support of people who don't like you? Why would you want the support of people who don't believe in your cause? I never understood that. Like, I remember when the Supreme Court made the decision on gay marriage, and that whole thing with the guy and the bakery happened, the Christian bakery, and he didn't want to bake a wedding cake for a gay marriage. And people got mad at him, and I'm pretty sure that guy lost his job or he was sued or some crazy like that. But to me, I never understood why it was such a big deal. He he was actively removing himself from a situation so as not to be in conflict with his religious beliefs. I don't understand why that was a situation, like why that was a problem. He wasn't violent. He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't say anything derogatory or express any hateful bigotry. He simply said, like, I don't want to be a part of that, and you guys can go and do that. I'm not going to stop you, but I don't want to be a part of it. So I don't understand why the people in the women's movement are are so eager to have people on their team who don't want to be on their team. Like, to me, that seems like such a backwards thought process to have. Oh, you don't want to be on my team, so I want you to be on my team. Like, isn't that just opening you up for sabotage and other such things? And then the whole thing about Trump being quote unquote against women. Like, I never understood that. Like, granted, he said some pretty pretty outlandish things, you know, pussy grabbing and all that. But even then, it's like he was just being a dumb jock. Like, anybody who's been in high school should understand the type of guy Trump is. Trump is your very typical alpha male jock, football team. Yeah, I'm out here. I get all the girls. I've got all the money. Look at me type dudes. Like, I don't understand why people are so, oh my god, he hates us, he's gonna destroy the world. Like, he's just one of those guys who you've encountered in high school who just thinks so highly of himself that he doesn't give a shit. Like, that's all he is. And I don't understand why there's all this fear. And then looking at the protest itself, you could, like, at some points you could barely call it a protest. It was more just a riot. And this is something that has been bothering me, and I do plan on making a video sooner or later. Something that bothers me about these so-called protests is that they very quickly devolve into violence, and a lot of the times the people causing the violence don't give a shit about what the fuck is going on. Like, the main people that were said to be causing violence were the anarchists. There was a group of anarchists coming in, and even if you watch these protests, you can see that the main groups of women, because this is worldwide, by the way, this was happening all over the world. It was not just the U.S. in Washington. This was also happening in Canada, and this was also happening in the UK and certain parts of the EU. And you could watch, like, if you watch some of these protests, you'll see that mainly there were, like, large groups of women marching and holding up signs. And then you had these small pockets of people within these large groups who were breaking stuff and setting things on fire and all that. And it was very, very obvious that this group was not there to protest. They were there to cause trouble. Like, they were tagging up stores and causing property damage and all that, and that's all they did. They didn't have a message. They weren't doing interviews. They were just coming in, wrecking shit, throwing stuff at the police, throwing stuff at reporters, and then just dipping the fuck out of there when shit got real. And this is a trend that I've been noticing, like, especially, like, I noticed it last year with a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests, and a lot of people were like, Black Lives Matter, they're such a violent group, they're so hateful. And then there was another pocket of people who were like, oh no, Black Lives Matter is peaceful, these are just troublemakers coming in from the outside. And truth be told, it's a little bit of both. But I did notice that a lot of the time that these protests keep devolving down into violence. And my main problem with this is, when you, like, look, even if I don't agree with you, I'm willing to hear you out. But the moment that you cannot argue me with words, then you've already lost the debate. The moment you have to resort to violence to get a point across, you've lost the debate, because you proved that you can't beat me in the arena of ideas alone, that you need to have some physical force in order to prove your point. And so watching the women's march and watching these pockets of people come in and fuck shit up for no apparent reason, it actually made me feel really bad for the people in these women movements. Because let's face it, like our current iteration of feminism, I think this is the third wave or the fourth wave or some bullshit like that. Our current iteration of feminism is not looked upon very kindly. Like, people don't see it as this good, benevolent force. They see it as useless. They see it as a lot of people just whining and saying a bunch of stuff that really doesn't mean anything or make any logical sense when you look at it just a little bit under the surface. And the fact that they not only have to deal with already having their movement be painted in a negative light, and for good reason, but already having their movement painted in a negative light, and then having these people come in and cause violence, which, as I just said before, immediately invalidates their argument because they cannot fight with words. It just makes me feel bad for them because, you know, it's like they're coming out here and they're trying to make a protest. Granted, they don't really have a censored issue on what they're protesting about, but like, it must suck for them that they just can't catch a break. And, you know, that's whether you agree with them or not. It's like they at least deserve to have their point of view expressed. What that point of view is, I don't fucking know. But they at least have the right to have it expressed. And, you know, here in the U.S., we have the right to peaceful protest. That's one of our constitutional rights. And so the fact that people came in and basically fucked that up for them kind of sucks. Because, you know, I would feel some type of way if I was going to protest a cause and a bunch of dickheads came in and started wrecking stuff and making it look like my entire protest was just a riot. You know, I would feel some type of way because of that. And it boggles my mind that I haven't seen any of the major players or any of the celebrities who are part of this protest come out and denounce the violence. Like, no, I don't agree with the violent acts. I don't agree with any of this. Like, I haven't seen any of that, and that really bothers me because wouldn't you want to show that you're separating yourself from that violence? Wouldn't you want your group to be seen as the actual peaceful people, and you're creating a barrier between you and the people who are actually causing property damage and actually causing violence? Like, wouldn't you want that separation? You know, put the Big Sean on, I don't fuck with you. Like, you don't, like, wouldn't you want that? But again, like, I still don't even see the point of the protest. Like, the messages were so scattered. Like, you know, people had signs talking, you can't grab my pussy. Like, okay, so is this protest about consensual sex? Like, is it about consensual sex and the importance of asking women if it's okay to grab them by the pussy? Like, is that what this whole thing is about? Or is it about abortion? Because there were plenty of signs talking about, oh, it's my vagina, my rights. You know, there was a lot of vagina-centered things at this protest. And this is something I've noticed with the movement of feminism. It's like the importance of the vag. It's like, I don't understand why so much of the movement is centered around the vag itself. It's almost as if these protesters, these women, these groups are reducing themselves to just the function of their vagina, which to me is counterintuitive, because isn't feminism about the empowerment of women? Why are you reducing yourself to what your vagina can do? Like you don't see guys like they talk about how guys run everything, but you don't see guys talking about how great our dicks are. Like, that's only when we're talking shit trying to get with a girl. Like, we don't go to the political stage and talk about, oh, our dicks are great, they're so fantastic, and you need to respect our dicks. Like, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? I mean, granted, Trump was was low key bragging about his length during some of the debates, but whatever. Again, I've written him off. He's a dickhead. Like that's his job. Like that's like in the social hierarchy, you need dickheads sometimes. Like you need them to shake things up. Otherwise, it just becomes stale and boring, and people become soft. They don't have a guard up because dickheads are everywhere. Like you need them, but that being said, like yeah, like I still don't understand the purpose of this thing. Like what does that protest accomplish? Like you have the right to protest, don't get me wrong, but what did it accomplish? Was there some important message that needed to get out on that day? Like was there some important thing that needed to be said that couldn't be said at any other time, or just came to light and you need to let everybody know? Because all I can see is a rehashing of the same feminist arguments for the past few years, actually. And by the way, like if you're wondering if this is me coming out against the feminist movement, I would guess so. I would say that, yeah. I'm not necessarily a feminist. I would not consider myself part of the anti-feminist movement because I really don't give that much of a shit about what people are talking about. Like I just do me. Like I don't really care that X, Y, and Z said something on YouTube. Like as long as, because there's always gonna be people to refute dumbness, right? Like there's plenty of anti-fem channels on YouTube that do great work and research and take the time and effort to actually go through the facts with these people while also shitting on them. And so I don't think it's necessary for me to even be part of that. And so, like, I just see the same arguments that you can hear at any feminist YouTube channel. Steve Shives, freaking Christy Winters, Lacey Green, any of their channels, like if you've watched them for the past few years, that's all they like. You would know exactly what was being spoken about at the Women's March. So like, what the hell was the point of the Women's March? Because I would argue that creating a platform and having an internet channel that can be shared around is much more efficient at getting out a message than going to a protest that has no organization, focused message, and just screaming out a slogan. Like that's silly to me. But I guess that's it for now. That's all I really wanted to say. The gray area is coming back shortly. I'm expecting February to be when the gray area officially comes back. You know, I have my birthday coming up next week on the 30th, so I want to enjoy that. I don't want to bog it down with work because I do feel like granted I make like no money here on YouTube, but I do see it as work for some reason. And so I'll be bringing that back after I've celebrated, you know, the big 21. I want to be able to drink and all that and have a good time. And then I will be bringing the gray area back. So until then, guys, I hope to see you in the near future. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Adios.